noticed a couple dancing? It seems effortless and so graceful. They both seem to know exactly where they're going. And I don't know if you've ever had dancing lessons, but it's a lot more difficult than it looks. There's a constant tension between the two individuals. And while they're moving in the same direction, individually, they're moving in very different ways, but in ways that allow their partner space and room to move. It's been said that dancing with the feet is one thing, but dancing with the heart is another.
The dance of relationships is an interesting way of thinking about the dynamic movement that happens in any relationship, particularly a marriage, where two people are living together, sharing their lives together, and you get these two forces at work.
I think a dance is a wonderful metaphor for a relationship, because when I take one step, my partner has to take another step. When she takes a step, I have to take a step. So I think it's a very fitting description for what happens in a relationship, the interdependentness and the connectedness of the various behaviours that we practice in a relationship. So what I do really impacts what my partner feels and in turn what my partner does, and vice versa. I think another reason that this is a really helpful metaphor is because there are two forces in a relationship that we strive to keep in balance. The forces of togetherness, our need to connect, and also the forces of separateness, our need to still be our own person and not to lose ourselves totally in the relationship.
Relationships, like dancing, are all about harmony, balance, teamwork, timing and connecting. I asked Professor David Olson from his research into marriages and families, what are the three keys to maintaining a good balance?
One of the things that we discovered is that there's three things we need to look at. One is we need to look at closeness, or cohesion we call it. How interconnected are family members with each other? How close do they feel to each other? Another characteristic is that healthy families are flexible. They're able to adapt to change. So when there's a major stressor in their family, they know how to handle it and can handle it effectively. And the third thing is they share how they feel, both positively and negatively.
So what might an unhealthy marriage or family relationship look like in terms of these three key characteristics?
In contrast, an unhealthy family tends to be really more problematic in a variety of ways. In terms of closeness, they either don't feel connected to each other, they're kind of each doing their own thing, or they're so interconnected that they interfere with each other's lives. We call that enmeshment. It's like thinking about having a family of porcupines in a little cage. They're so tight together that when one moves, it's a painful experience for the rest of them. So unhealthy families are either too close or not connected at all. Now, in terms of flexibility, unhealthy families, we find they're either rigid, they have an authoritarian leader that says, these are the rules, you gotta do this is the way it is, and there's no option for change. Or on the other extreme is what we call chaotic, there are no rules. Family members do what they want. And so unhealthy families tend to fall at those two extremes. There's either too much rigidity or chaos. And then thirdly, in terms of communication, their communication is not good. They don't share their feelings with each other. They tend to be negative. They put down each other. So unhealthy families often stay stuck in a pattern, whereas what we see with healthy families is that they adapt and change over time.
When you've grown up without a balance between closeness, flexibility and good communication, it's no surprise that this could also occur in your own marriage and family life. So what steps can couples take to break that cycle and build new patterns of balance and harmony in their relationship?
One of the things that I always say to couples that are getting married is you're not only marrying that person, you're marrying that person's family. So knowing a family of origin is really a key thing that couples really need to take into consideration when they're thinking about marriage, but also when they're living out the marriage. One of the things that we've done typically in working with couples is say, what do you like in your family of origin and your partner's family of origin that you'd like to bring into your relationship? Because you're going to do it anyway, but we want you to be more proactive about it. But we also say to them, what are things that went on in your family of origin that you didn't like, you don't want to repeat, or in your partner's family of origin? Because those will be styles and things that we often see repeated: alcoholism, abuse, a lot of the negative things. But if couples can talk about that and be more proactive, they can, in a sense, prevent those problems from repeating in their own relationship.
Seems like there are a number of important things to building a good, balanced relationship. But is there one thing in particular that could be considered to be the most important?
If I had to say one thing to a family and a couple, is give your marriage top priority. Because if you have a strong marriage, your children are going to see that and believe that and have a model they can look forward to building in their own future. If they don't have a strong marriage, they're not going to have a model to go forward where they know what to do. And what's sad about our culture right now is we have too many people that haven't seen a healthy relationship, don't know what a good marriage is and a good family. But the foundation, I think, of a strong family is a strong marriage.
Have you ever noticed that when you spend time outside in the elements, with the wind in your hair and the sun on your face, life just seems to be a little bit better? You feel more alive. It's a great feeling, isn't it? But how do we achieve this sense of vitality in our relationships?
I think one of the first things to realise when you want to keep your love vital and alive is that it's going to take work. People in long-term good relationships don't get there accidentally. So there are a number of very practical things that we can do. Firstly is to continue to renew the sense of romance. How each couple does that is different. Some people might enjoy a particular sport together, other people will enjoy eating out a lot or cooking together. There can be a whole host of different ways that people do that. But one of the things I'm always fascinated in when I talk to couples and I ask them, what do you do together that's fun? And often there's nothing they can actually come up with. The best they can do is, we went and saw a movie together last week. Well, there's not a lot of intimacy and connectedness that happens when you're both watching a movie. I think also the building of the partnership, realising you are on the same team, showing respect, honour and goodwill, building up that bank balance so that when something happens in which either of you may need to draw a cheque on the relationship, there's actually something in the bank. John Gottman talks about this as positive sentiment override. When there's positive sentiment override in the relationship, I'm much less likely to take things personally. I'm not going to be quite as reactive. If my partner gets a bit cranky with me, I'll go, it's okay, she's had a hard day, it's fine. And I'm going to be able to give her a hug rather than react back and fire up. Communication and effective communication is certainly not the only thing that's important in relationships, but it certainly is very important. The ability to be able to communicate in a way that actually works. So what I am saying actually gets across. The message that I meant to communicate is actually the message that my partner receives. I think it's also really important to stop recycling the stuff from the past, to avoid the criticisms. I think research has shown that for every negative comment made in the relationship, there should be at least 5 positive comments. It should be sort of roughly in that ratio. And to avoid contempt and to manage conflict in a way that's actually constructive. There will be conflict, we know that, but to manage that in a way that doesn't tear down each other or tear down the relationship. I think another really important thing is the promoting of emotional support. How can I let my partner know that I'm there for her? How can she let me know that she is there for me? And do we have a number of ways that we do that? Are we in sync in how we do that? I think another important aspect is to keep the sexual relationship interesting and creative. I think the biggest problem that I see in marriage when it comes to sex is that it gets boring and people stop having sex and having that connectedness because it's become boring, it's routine. Same thing, same time, and a lot of the enthusiasm and energy and creativity that was put into the sexual relationship early in the marriage is no longer put in, it's no longer invested.
And off he went.
When we first had kids, I don't think we were very good at keeping our relationship strong. I think we got caught up in the desperate need of a baby and, you know, for their parents' attention and you know, just the general needs that an infant has. I think in many ways we were serving the needs of our children in the early days, but we were basically just partners in this job that we had to do rather than a couple that was on the right track to staying connected.
But even back in those times, we heard about having a date night and all that. There was no, I mean, when you've got young kids, there's actually no joy really in going out. But you know, because
so
a late
tired.
night is 8 o'clock. And I mean, if you,
Yeah.
so I mean, I can we let that slip and I think it was, you know, to our
It was
detriment.
detrimental, yeah.
But it was very
Now,
hard. It was
yeah.
really hard. And it's only been in the last year or so that we've actually been able to get sort of a bit of time to ourselves. And you know, just last weekend we actually went away. I had to go to a conference, so we left the three with my mum and dad, and Sarah came up to join me for the weekend.
To intentionally spend some time together and to have some fun and to, you know, just to realise why it is that we choose to hang around each other rather than this joint job we've got to do. You come back more excited about everything that it is that you're going to do in your week and also reconnected, which I think is really important, is to continuously connect.
Sitting around the table. It's something we had to do as a family, like a family chore, you might say. And as we got older, sitting around the table became something we looked forward to, and I suppose symbolised part of what and who we were as a family. Looking back, it's become a family ritual. And now when we get together, it's almost automatic. Sitting around someone's table, talking, laughing. So, are family rituals important? I asked Jenny Brown that very question.
Family rituals are considered very important to family cohesiveness, family tradition from generation to generation. Many people value the rituals around birthdays, around family holidays, around religious festivals, certainly Christmas and Easter time. And they do serve an important purpose of giving a sense of being part of the threads of the generation that have gone by, part of something more than just travelling in present time. And the bringing together of rituals from two different families into a marriage and into a new family can bring great richness.
My family growing up was somewhat chaotic because I come from a very large family. There's 5 girls in my family plus my mum and my dad. So it was a rather chaotic background. So rituals in an organised sense, I don't feel we had a huge number of organised rituals. In saying that, I know there were a lot of casual rituals that occurred. One big one that I've taken from my family life is reading to my children in the evenings before they go to bed. Obviously, it was a winding down thing that my mother particularly, and my dad on weekends, used to wind us down before we went to sleep. And it's something that we've also adopted. But it's become a really special time because it's quiet, you know, the kids are sitting in your lap, You're reading stories that they've chosen, and I love children's books because I'm a primary teacher. So it's also, fun to read all of their books.
He yelled. I've enjoyed being part of that process because of my reading skills have actually improved somewhat. So my family are much the same. We didn't have any organised rituals, and it's funny when we talk about, you hear that healthy families are those that have these rituals. Once again, it sort of fills me with this sense of angst and guilt almost. So much of parenting is filled with that, I find.
When it comes to having a healthy family life, it seems there's a lot of things that are important. Good communication, having fun, family rituals, and maybe most importantly, the health of the relationship between the parents. But how do we do this? How do we check up on our relationship? How do we measure the satisfaction of our emotional, sexual, and physical needs?
In the U.S., we have checkups for our cars. We take it in and get an oil change. We get a dental checkup. But couples don't do anything for their relationship. So what we're proposing is that couples on their anniversary think about doing a couple checkup. Look at your relationship. Look at what do you have as strengths in your relationship that you can build on. And what are the good things you did in the last year? But also, what are some of the things that might need improving, that you each would like to have better in the relationship? And so doing a little checkup like that can really help build a stronger relationship over time.
I think the idea of having a regular marital checkup is an excellent one. Most of us who are in couples counselling really believe that most of the couples that we see come to us 2 to 5 years too late. That if they had come 2 to 5 years earlier, it would have been a lot easier for us to be able to get the relationship back on track.
There's something really exciting about dancing nice and close. The tension between two people, separate, yet moving together, moving in the same direction. I think the quote I mentioned earlier sums it up. Dancing with the feet is one thing, but dancing with the heart is another. The more energy you put into it, the better you get. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll just dart off and put my dancing shoes on.